About 83% of you guys are not subscribed. Subscribing, clicking that like button, and commenting all help me out a lot in doing what I really want to do. Thank you guys so much for all your support.
What is going on, guys? Rogue TCG here, bringing another Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG deck profile. You guys voted for it, and I am responding. Here is Vaalmonica. This deck is actually really interesting. At first, when I was looking at it, I didn't think it was actually going to be doing all too much because I wasn't too familiar with too many pendulum archetypes, especially ones that relate to counters. The only other one that I knew of really were the spell counters and Dimion stuff. However, after taking a good look and learning this list and reading the cards, I know, reading, one of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Players' like overall things that they don't like doing the most is reading. After reading all the cards, I have to say, these cards are actually a lot better than I was giving them credit for beforehand, and I will be first saying that I think some of these cards are actually quite good, especially in terms of getting a resource loop online. This deck is really good at making its actually, it's not really that great at making their links. I'm not going to just straight up lie like that. That's probably the main difficulty of the deck, is getting the links on board, although they are the best pieces of interaction the deck does have, as well as resource generation. But let's stop yapping from right here, and let's talk about the deck and go card by card through it. Starting off the list in our main deck monsters, we're on triple Celatrice Vaalmonica. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that one right. Well, you control the monster except for itself. Your opponent's monsters cannot target this card for attacks. You can use each of the following effects of it once per turn. If it's normal or pendulum summoned, you can add one Vaalmonica card from your deck to your hand except for itself. And if this card's sent to the graveyard and you have two Vaalmonica cards in your pendulum zones, you can just add it right back to your hand. So it is just your starter that keeps on adding itself back to hand over and over again, which is really great, especially for like making sure you always have resources turn after turn, no matter what. Next, we're on three of the good one, Angelo Vaalmonica. It is a Pend 3. Its Pend effect is each time you gain life points while you control a fiend monster in your other pendulum zone, place one resonance counter on this card. And once per turn, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can immediately, after this effect resolves, link summon one Vaalmonica link monster. If your opponent doesn't read this, this could literally be the end of the game for them, because you can tag into one of the really good ones, the one that pops a card, or pops two cards rather, and just kind of get away with murder. And then it has a monster effect. If this card's in your hand, you can discard one other card to take a Demono Vaalmonica from your deck and place this card and that card in your pen zone, so it automatically completes your scales for you just for discarding a card. And during your main phase, if this card's normal or special summon this turn, you can banish one Vaalmonica normal spell trap from your graveyard and apply whichever effect on that card includes gaining life points. So it lets you cheat the effect of another Vaalmonica spell. And keep in mind, you can still do that even after you've activated that same spell, since you're just copying the effect, which means this just lets you get extra effects off each turn, which is insane. And this is one of the main things I actually missed when I was first initially going over this archetype during my deck building process. Now we're going over to the Demono Vaalmonica. Each time you take effect damage while you control a fairy monster in the other pen zone, you'll be able to place a resonance counter on this card, and monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack for each resonance counter on the field. Honestly, at first, I thought that attack loss effect was kind of bad at best. However, after actually playing with it, I think it's quite decent, because very frequently you can get 6+ resonance counters on the board overall. And as the game just goes longer and longer, and you just get more and more counters, like, your opponents just end up having no attack on any of the monsters they're ever going to summon, which means they can't really ever close out the game or even mount a proper defense. It also has the effect very similar to the other one, where you can discard one other card to put the other one and itself in the pen zones. And then if it was normal or special summon this turn, you can banish one Vaalmonica normal spell trap from your graveyard and apply whichever effect is the taking damage one. And as you're noticing, like, these guys are mentioning taking damage by card effects and putting counters, and gaining life by card effects and putting counters. So almost all the Vaalmonica spells and traps will do something sort of like that. There's just I believe there's 2 of them that don't gain you life or to make you take damage. So first off, we're on triple Vaalmonica Celta. You can either gain life points and place a card from your hand on the bottom of the deck, then draw 2 cards, or take 500 damage to add a Vaalmonica spell trap from your deck to your graveyard. And all the Vaalmonica spell traps are going to have this first effect. The spells are going to have this first effect. Apply one of these effects. Unless you control a Vaalmonica card in your pen zone, your opponent gets to choose which one you get. So really only activate the ones where you choose effects if you have a Vaalmonica scale up or just one of them up, because you do not want your opponent to choose which one you have to do, just because allowing your opponent to make choices for you in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not the best thing to do. But this one is really good. Being able to add another Vaalmonica spell trap lets you cycle these cards into your graveyard as well as it replacing itself. And since, as you remember from the Demono and the Angelo, these guys can copy the effect again in the graveyard. So functionally, if you have the Demono out, you can search 2. And if you have the Angelo out, you could potentially draw 4. So there's a lot of really cool ways you can get advantage in this deck. We're on triple Visare. You can either gain 500 life points and excavate cards on the top of the deck until you excavate a Vaalmonica card, and then you can add it from your deck to your hand. Or you can take 500 damage to send a Vaalmonica card from your deck to the graveyard. It might seem a little strange. Why do we want to send our Vaalmonica cards to the graveyard? There's a couple cards we're going to be seeing a bunch of cards that have positive graveyard synergy. So we already saw the Demono and the Angelo being able to banish stuff from your graveyard to get synergistic value that way, but there's a lot more cards in the archetype that allow you to get value via the graveyard, meaning cycling your cards out of your hand isn't just like performing game actions and doing nothing. You're actually increasing the amount of resources you have available to you by increasing the amount of cards in your graveyard. We are on one Vaalmonica in Tonare. A lot of these cards are very recurable, not just from graveyard, not just from deck, but also even from banishment. So we only really need to be playing one of this one, and this one honestly isn't the best. We can either gain 500 life points, and if we have any monsters in our graveyard that can be special summoned, your opponent gets to choose one for you to special summon to your field. Or you can take 500 damage to add a level 4 monster from your graveyard, to your hand, and then you can only use one of those per turn. The fact that no matter what, if you want to special summon a monster your opponent has to choose for you is just not necessarily the best. However, the material requirements on our link monsters make that a lot less punishing than it would be otherwise. We are on triple Vaalmonica Disharmonia. The first part of the effect, we can place a resonance counter on one card on our pendulum zone that you can place a resonance counter on, and then we can apply one of these effects. So this isn't one of the ones that our opponent gets to choose for us if we don't have a scale, which is quite nice, as well as it being able to place a resonance counter on one of our scales means this is probably one of the better cards in this deck, just because even if you're not doing the plus or minus effect for like taking damage or gaining life, you can still put a counter on that respective card in your pen scale in order to get to 3 counters, which is kind of your main goal, is to get to 3 or more. This card has the effect to either gain life points to add a banished Vaalmonica card from your hand, from your banishment to your hand, or to take 500 damage to add a Vaalmonica card from your graveyard to your hand. So this is like the overall recursion card. And since we are sending so many cards to our graveyard, not just with our Visare, not just with our Celta just activating it and putting it in our graveyard so we can grab our starter card for next turn, but also with our Angelo and our Demono, when we're scaling it, we can pitch our Vaalmonicas to get them back later in the turn with Disharmonia without having to pitch like generic stuff like Terraforming, Imperm, Hand Traps. So it's actually beneficial to pitch our Vaalmonica cards because they're so easily accessible from the graveyard. We are on 3 field spell, Vaalmonica, the Agthacological Voice. Please forgive me for that pronunciation. That's my first time actually reading that card out loud. It's a field spell. When this card is activated, you can add a Vaalmonica monster from your deck to your hand, so it's basically a Rhoda on activation. If a card in your pen zone has a 3rd resonance counter placed on it, you can target one monster your opponent controls, take control of it until the end phase, but it cannot declare an attack. You can use this effect of Vaalmonica, the voice of whatever, once per turn. You can only activate one of them per turn. This card is good at being a Rhoda, but that effect when you steal a monster if you place a 3rd resonance counter on them is like, it's pretty good. However, it only says once you place that 3rd resonance counter. So once you get 3 on both of your scales, you're done with that effect of this card unless you get rid of your scales or remove counters from your card. But we are still playing 3 because it does still search our play starter, and we are playing a super low amount of monsters in this deck, so we really want to find it. It can also search for our scales too, which is quite good. We're on triple Vaalmonica Invitare. We can apply one of these effects, either special summoning a Vaalmonica monster from our deck, and for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you can't activate the effects of monsters on field except for Vaalmonicas. Or if we control a non-pendulum Vaalmonica, we can take 2 Vaalmonica pendulums and either add one to hand and add the other to our face-up extra deck. Typically with this one, we just want to special summon one from deck, although it might seem a little bit strange, but we don't want to be summoning the Cellatrix because it doesn't actually trigger on special summon, only on normal or pendulum summon. It's actually a lot better to be summoning something like Angelo or Demono, because we can then in turn not copy this card because it doesn't actually make us gain life points or take damage, but we can just get an extra body if we have another one in graveyard to copy that one and get more advantage that way. And then our last 2 main deck Vaalmonica cards is our Vaalmonica Chosen Melody. We can activate one of these effects, or if we control a Vaalmonica Link, we can activate both. We're either going to gain 500 life points, for the rest of the turn your opponents can't target Vaalmonica monsters with card effects, or take 500 damage and then negate the effects of one effect monster your opponent controls until the end phase. Really good way to non-targeting negate an effect on field. However, it's a little bit lacking. However, one of our Link monsters does make it a lot better. And then we are on 1 Vaalmonica Fallen Rhythm. Either we can do the same thing. If we control a Link, we can do both. Otherwise, we can choose one or the other. Gain 500 and then destroy a spell trap on field, non-targeting. Or take 500 damage and then bounce a monster from field to hand, non-targeting as well. So both of these traps are fairly good. They are a little bit modal, as all the Vaalmonica cards are, but I personally am a big fan of modal cards. And the ability to either pop a spell trap or remove a monster from field makes this one probably one of the better traps in the deck, just for interacting with your opponent overall. But we are on 1 Terraforming to find the field spell. Double Pot of Prosperity. We don't really need too many cards in the extra deck, and we're not really drawing cards except for maybe with Celta. So if we're not planning on using Celta, Pot of Prosperity can help dig for cards that we need to be seeing. We're on triple crossout designator. I'm on triple crossout in this build specifically because I was a little bit unsure of what non-engine to run. And also I was noticing during the deck building process that this deck does pretty much instantly hard lose to Droll and Lockbird exactly. Ash Blossom and Joy Spring and Imperm do hurt a lot too, so I'm just running those as a crossout package in order to try and prevent interaction with our deck, because our deck does kind of fold pretty heavily to interaction. And then lastly, we're on 1 Called by the Grave for interaction as well. In our extra deck, we are on, let's cover our Vaalmonica links first. There are Link 1s that just need an effect monster. Really, really generous link requirement. Cannot be link summon unless you have 3 or more resonance counters on a fiend monster in your pendulum zone for the Hallowed Heathen. And then the Heathen Hallow has the opposite effect, where you have to have 3 resonance counters on a fairy monster. So to summon this one, you need 3 counters on the Demono, and to summon this one, you need 3 counters on the Angelo. So you kind of got to pick which one you want to make early in your combo when placing resonance counters, for example, is something like Disharmonia. Hallowed Heathen has the effect where you can only special summon it once per turn. If a card you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can remove 3 resonance counters from your pendulum zones instead, so it's kind of like a Dingirsu protection-like effect. And once per opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target one of your Vaalmonica normal spells that is banished or in your graveyard, and then apply that card's activation effect, which is really strong to be able to basically just copy whatever Vaalmonica card you want, including the traps, from your graveyard at quick effect speed on your opponent's turn, which also allows you to apply both of the effects if you copy a trap, which basically means as long as you get a trap in graveyard, either with Viscerae or drawing it and discarding it with Angelo or Demono, you are able to really get some serious advantage going and even put up interactions. And then the Heathen Hallow has the effect where you can only special summon it once per turn. If it's link summoned, you can target monsters your opponent controls up to the number of resonance counters in your number of resonance counters in your pendulum zones and destroy them. And then you can remove 3 resonance counters from your pen zone. This card can make up to 3 attacks during each battle phase this turn. So essentially what this means is the moment this thing hits the board, if you have 3 resonance counters on both of your link monsters, or sorry, both of your pendulum scales, not link monsters. You are able to basically full clear your board even if they have a monster in every single zone, which is nuts. Also, the effect to attack 3 times. It seems a little weird, but it actually is super relevant because it means this card by itself does 7,500 damage to your opponent if they have nothing to like block it, which is nuts. And we are playing a card in the extra deck to make it a little bit cheesier and hopefully get some really cheesy wins that way. But this is also incredibly strong by being able to pop this right out of the extra deck with Angelo on our opponent's turn. If they try and be cheeky and attack over a card, we can just link summon into it and just basically surprise pop everything on board. But that's pretty much it for our Vaalmonica cards. It's a little bit of a smaller package. We're still waiting on some cards to pop up from the OCG. But in our extra deck otherwise is 1 Dark to Dark Charmer Gloomy, because Cellatrix is a spellcaster, although not really relevant for Dark, but Angelo is a Dark, so this can come up for Link Climbing. The reason I mentioned the spellcaster is because we are on Selene. We play a lot of spells, and Selene can get a lot of spell counters to get us advantage, although it won't trigger our Cellatrix because it will special summon, not normal or pen summon it. We're on 1 SP Little Knight format Superstar, 1 Access Code Talker, and 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World to potentially do something with like a Dark, bring back an opponent's monster, bring out like 1 extra extender, and then we can Underworld Goddess for their life savings. And then since we're pretty decent at putting out level 4 monsters, especially since we can also pen summon all of our monsters in our deck, since our skills are 3 and 5, so we can summon all our 4s straight from hand. We're on 1 Bagusker, 1 Abyss Dweller, and 1 Dugaris the Timeless. If we can get 2 4s and this Heathen Hallow Link on field, we can double its attack and then attack 3 times to do 1,500 damage to our opponent. So pretty cute way to win there. And then 1 Sky Crisis Typhon, because sometimes our hands just don't really do it and we need to have some sort of backup plan. But that's about it for the deck profile. Overall, I think this deck is honestly a lot of fun. I really enjoy this deck, and I'm actually really going to seriously consider picking it up. I think this deck is a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to see what the OCG does with the support cards in order to try and make it better. In my opinion, I think the deck needs a little bit more interaction with your opponent, a little bit more ways to get your play started, maybe like another main deck starter monster, or maybe like an extender of some sort, but I think another starter would be really good, like another thing that the field spell would be able to search would be quite nice. And then maybe another way to interact with your opponent in a meaningful way. Maybe a way to banish a card on field, like non-targeting, something like that. It just needs like one other way to interact with its opponents, because realistically ending on like 1 or maybe 2 interactions if our opponent does something isn't necessarily the best, and having to open hand traps to make a board also isn't the best. But the deck is really good at resource management and resource accrual, very similar to Orcust. So there's that, and you all know how much I love Orcust. But thank you all so much for watching the video, if you still are, and I'll be seeing you all next time. Bye bye.
Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you wanted to talk to more Yu-Gi-Oh players like yourself, I would highly recommend checking out our Discord server. Link is going to be in the description, as well as the QR code on screen. We do talk somewhat frequently about Yu-Gi-Oh and the current meta, so I would really enjoy to see you there. As well as we do recently now have channel memberships available on our YouTube channel, where we have 3 different tiers. We have Super Supporter at $2 a month, where you get loyalty badges, emojis, guaranteed comment responses, a shout out at the end of every video, as well as access to the members only Discord channel, where you get early sneak peeks at future videos. There is the Giga Supporter at $5 a month, where you have early access to all new videos about a day or 2 before they go up, as well as all the previous offers. And for $15 a month, we do have our final tier, which is going to be Femboy Fanatic. You get a guaranteed customized video every single month, as well as 1 hour of my time. Could be for anything you'd like. You want a duel? Absolutely. You want me to help build a deck? Absolutely. You want to play some Helldivers? Sure. I'll do anything for an hour once a month. But supporting does help me out quite a lot, and it does help me produce all of these videos. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be seeing y'all later. Bye-bye.